Now, before we close out, you've been a very hands-on commissioner. I mean, you're very involved. You're out there. You're involved with the kids, from the athletes or the kids participating in sports, and you're also involved in the development of the structure of the parks and the recreational area for the government. Um, Let me ask you, what are some of the things? What would some of the things that you'd like to see done more, as far as some of the things you'd like to do, but you're limited to as far as resources?
Well, funding is really our big problem because even though we have been repairing a lot of the facilities, the funding is not adequate for us to do everything that we want to do. But I must say that I do give thanks to the governor, Governor John P. Young Jr., because when I got into the position, the first thing that we did was did an assessment of all of our facilities. We determined what repairs were needed, and we came up with a cost. We had come up with a cost of about $5 million that was actually needed, and the governor went out of his way to work with the legislature, and we got $3 million appropriated, which we have utilized to really work on a number of our facilities. So funding is particularly one of those. Also, funding affects staffing, okay, because a lot of people may not realize it, but the Department of Housing, Parks and Recreation is basically a 7-day operation. And then not only that, we also operate right into the evening up until 11 o'clock at night. So, we have to really stagger the schedule so to reduce overtime, to be able that we are able to provide this service to the community. So, those are funding is primarily the one area where I see our biggest concern might be, but we really don't let that affect us. We really go out our way to try to work with what we have available to us.
The parks are public, and what are some of the measures you're doing to actually keep the parks safe?
Well, the parks are public, but really we do also have a fee structure in place. So a lot of people may realize as they come to request the use of the park, there is a fee involved. We try to work with the groups and so forth, and particularly the youth groups in particular. We don't go overboard in terms of charging a fee, and sometimes we may have to waive the fee as such so that some things happen, or there may be a reduction in fee. But particularly now with the financial restraints of this government, and particularly with what the Department of Housing and Park is facing, we really find ourselves in a situation where it's difficult for us to waive the fee, and it really has to really be a really serious and legitimate concern for us to be able to do that.
Before we close out, one thing that's weighing heavy on all our minds as parents, grandparents, etc. You see your grandparent, is before we close out, the crime. We started with that. Let's close out with that. What bothers you the most, and what do you think some of the measures could be done to eradicate this plague in our community?
Well, somehow we really need to begin to get a sense of responsibility in the community. Let me tell you, the churches, the various organizations, need to be more active. As far as I see, I remember, when I was growing up, you would see the different churches and so forth. They would go into the neighborhoods. They would have Sunday school. They would have activities. I remember the first time I went to a summer Bible school. I lived over in the country in Princess, and the pastor of the Moravian church, he came around and he saw us just playing out there. He says, they're having this program. If we would be interested, they went and talked to our parents, and it was just a 2-week program. But that pastor would come with his car for those 2 weeks, pick us up, and take us to the Bible school that was being held that summer. And out of that, I was able to make quite a number of friends. So it really calls for us reaching out in the community. There are a lot of families, I think, parents who do need help with their kids, and I think we need to go. People are very, they don't like others to know in terms of maybe the problems that they're experiencing, but sometimes we can see where there could be a problem, and it may take us to actually reach out to really assist that family some way or the other. And so that's what I'm saying, through the churches, through the schools, through the other different organizations. There are quite a number of civic organizations here in the community that really, right, go out of the way, but we have to ensure that we're reaching those kids that really needs the help.
Well, that's how it was about 10, 15 years ago. It
Yes.
took the community, and an adult was respected as an adult. It didn't
Yes.
have to necessarily be a parent,
Yes.
and that's what you're actually talking
We are
about.
saying that, but but there are some adults who say what they don't know how to deal with these kids these days. But I really don't think that really kids change that much. I think that if you really show that you're really interested in that kid, because we have been seeing it with the basketball leagues and so forth that we have had. As we go around, we have been able to get them to interact in the different neighborhoods. What we find is that these kids are beginning to interact with each other when they go to the racetrack. You begin to see them hanging around together, and in the past they may not have done that because they didn't interact with each other because of being from different neighborhoods. But now you create these programs where they have to work together, because what does sport does? It provides you with discipline. It provides you in terms of learning to teamwork and these responsibility. And so once you learn these in those areas, you begin to realize that to really succeed in life, you have to be able to do these things.
I'd like to continue this talk again. I know your schedule is busy. I
Very
appreciate
good.
your time. Commissioner St. Clair Williams from Housing, Parks, and Recreation, thanks a lot. And I'm sure a lot of people watching the program, you put a totally different perspective on things because you're very optimistic about the future and our young people, and that's a
I
good
am.
sign.
Thank you very much. And thank you for this opportunity to be able to present exactly what we are doing from the Department of Housing, Parks, and Recreation.
For Answers and Solutions, I'm Glenn Drake. Have a pleasant good evening.